Welcome to the Heart of Luverne Podcast, bringing you timely updates, important information, and the inside scoop about local issues, services, and upcoming projects.
Hi, everyone. We are going inside the Heart of Luverne today. I'm Jill Wolf, your city administrator. And with me today, I have special guests. I have Jacki Johnson and Priscilla Nath. Welcome, Jacki and Priscilla.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jacki and Priscilla are very special guests today. They were part of a Civic Assembly that the city hosted, and we took on the topic of electric scooters. The city council, in general, started to get concerns from local citizens probably about a year or two ago with the uptick of the popularity of micronized vehicles, e-scooters, and electric bikes, and the ability for these vehicles to go at faster speeds, and a lot of questions of what are the rules, what are the regulations, what state law, should the city have a stricter ordinance? And this was brought to the council a couple times throughout the year. And it can be a very difficult policy-making decision when it's affecting many different groups. And for a group of council members or even staff to make an opinion on what the laws moving forward should be, we wanted to hear more voices. We wanted more people in the community, more stakeholders, people that are owners of e-scooters, that have children of e-scooters. We wanted their opinions and to hear their voices to get a decision, or for the council to make a decision with that input. So we decided to do a civic assembly. This was something new that we have done in Luverne. I took a leadership class through the International City Managers Association this past year, and my capstone project was on civic assemblies. So I did research on different communities like Fort Collins, Colorado, and Seattle, Washington, just to learn about another form of democracy that involved more people, more stakeholders on special interest topics, and what that looked like, how it was performed, and then I took this issue of electric scooters and kind of fine-tuned it to Luverne so that we could get just a well-rounded recommendation to the council on how to handle the e-scooters in our community. So Jacki and Priscilla, you guys were part of the Civic Assembly group. What we first did is we identified 8 stakeholder groups. There were 8 different groups of people or demographics that we felt were most impacted by the use of electric scooters. So our 8 groups were scooter user under age 18. We had 2 representatives of those youth that do have scooters, a downtown business, an avid trail and sidewalk user, an experienced driver over 60, law enforcement. We had Matt Sorensen on the Civic Assembly, a Luverne community member, and then Jacki, you represented a parent of a minor child that uses a scooter, and Priscilla represented Luverne schools. So we had those 8 stakeholder groups. When we identified those groups, we target marketed each of those demographics. So we tried to really hit specific marketing where we thought those groups of people would see the information about being involved in the Civic Assembly. So we hit that. And I guess just how did you guys find the information? Where did you see it? Where did you learn about it?
Okay. So this is Priscilla, and I learned about it through the Luverne Chamber Facebook page. I follow it. I'm on Facebook a good amount, and I follow the Luverne Area Chamber Facebook page. I saw it come up, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. And there wasn't anything about the topic originally. It just said that we're looking for people who want to share their voice and their opinions. And I said, hey, you know what? I want to try that. I like giving my opinions on things.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly what I saw too. It was on the Facebook page. And same thing. I can't believe we haven't had this conversation together, but when I saw it, it was about how to be involved, like how to be involved in your community. So for me, it was honestly not the topic that drew me in. It was more like an opportunity to step forward and be a representative, you know, and be part of something locally. So that was pretty cool that we both felt that same.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I didn't know that either. I thought you guys were interested in electric scooters, but this is even better. Yeah, so we're happy to have you. And then we had a form that you had to fill out and submitted that. And so from each stakeholder group, we had multiple applications. So what we did is we did a lottery selection. And we did the internet, the random choice where you spin the wheel. So we took each demographic group. So for the scooter user under 18, we put all of the names into that and we spun a wheel. And we had Aaron Mongold and Keegan Hess as those representatives. Same with the downtown businesses. And Jane Lanfear, she represented that demographic. She used to own a downtown business for many years. And then now she's the chamber director. So she's very closely connected to downtown businesses and kind of the climate of that demographic. Avid trail and sidewalk user. That was probably our largest group that we received applications from. But Stephanie Adams was chosen on that. And then we had the experienced driver, age 60 plus, and that was Pat Salm. Luverne Schools again was Priscilla, and Luverne community member, Kim Murphy. We had quite a few people on that one as well. And then the parent of a minor child using a scooter was Jacki. Law enforcement, we did not do lottery selection. We just asked Matt. We asked him to be in it. So
no, you put his name in there and it just didn't even turn. It's like, 100%.
Yep, Matt's the winner. Yes, so Sheriff Matt was our representative there. And then if anyone did check a box that, you know, they represented a couple of those different stakeholder groups, we did put their name in for each of those. So they had a couple chances.
And I think it's safe to say that a good cross-section of the individuals involved, either parents of young children, you know, I'm a parent of middle school, high school, but I'm also the parent of adults. So the perspective taking is a lot different. I feel like your kids are not ready to be on scooters yet. And my oldest children had the razor scooters that they had to use their legs for. So I can say from an honest perspective that as a child who had just a, you know, traditional scooter for their children, the transition to e-scooter just felt like, oh, it's just got a motor on it. Like, what do you mean there's rules? So, like, that's not, my thinking is like, oh, they know how to ride a scooter, so I think it should be fine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, no, but that is a very good point. Yeah, and we just had, I feel like the group itself, we had a wide range of opinions and backgrounds and discussion, and it really brought a lot of value to the whole group and the topic we were talking about. So we had our first meeting June 15th of 2026, and the entire group was there. We went around and we did introductions to start, and then as each person introduced themselves, we asked them to identify the demographic they were representing or which stakeholder group they were representing. And in that process, we kind of reminded them, you can have your own personal opinion, but you're also the collective voice for this one demographic, this one stakeholder group. So, Priscilla is the collective voice of Luverne School staff, and Jacki's the collective voice of parents of scooter owners. And so, yes, your opinion matters, and it's part of that collective voice, but your responsibility is to go out and find other people in your demographic, your sphere of influence, and get their opinions, get their voices heard, and help that for when you come back to the group again. Second, we went through and talked about what the process would look like, and then we talked about what the goals were. And the outcome goals of this particular group, our special interest topic, again, was electric scooters. So our goals were to make a recommendation to the city council. We kind of had 3 potential goals in mind that we were evaluating. One was to continue following state law. The second was to adopt a city ordinance that would go above and beyond the state law with additional regulations. And the third was to continue to follow state law, but add in education to that. So we talked about that, what our goals would be, and those were kind of the three that we were going to work towards and decide which one of those would be the best to recommend to City Council. After that, we did our research. We viewed an educational video that the City of Elk River put together, which was very informational and helpful just to kind of kick it off and get the topic started. And then Sheriff Matt Sorensen went through the state law. I think we all learned a lot. I guess, what are a couple things that you guys picked up from that we didn't know?
Oh, a lot. I'm embarrassed to admit it was pretty much everything. I was like, I honestly did not even know that there were official rules written about e-scooters. Like, that was surprising to me. Again, I have young children, so we really haven't ventured into e-scooters. It's not something I'd given a lot of thought about, other than, I'm outside with my kids and I see other kids on scooters, and suddenly I realized, like, oh, there's like an age limit. There's, you're supposed to be wearing helmets. I don't even think I realized that, like, there are kids who will ride two together on one bike, and suddenly realizing, like, that's not allowed. I'm like, oh, so everything. It was very eye-opening just to hear the state law in the first place. Mm-hmm. So,
and I think the sidewalks was the hardest one for me. We have a very avid trail system here, and it's kind of confusing about, where we can do certain things. So that makes it really difficult. And I think our big discussion that we had last night was the fact that the state statute is 21 years old. So, the things that they were thinking about in 2005 are not necessarily, some are still applicable, but certainly, it would be great if we could lobby for, some changes to the state statute or giving cities the opportunity to look at their own sidewalk trail systems and make a decision based on that.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess kind of going off that, we found out under state law, scooters are not to be ridden on sidewalks, but they are allowed on trails. And that makes it a little gray for riders in Luverne, because we have Blue Mound Avenue. Is that a trail or is that a sidewalk? Just things like that. And so that was part of the discussion too. And, that need to educate people on that. I thought it was interesting that helmets are only required for ages 12 to 18. I guess your brain must be developed and safe after 18. I don't know. But yeah, I think the technologies of the scooters has improved so much in 20 years that law really needs to be updated. And
certainly with the way that the speeds at which they can go now, obviously it should be, hey, you want to go 25? Great. Have to have a helmet.
Right.
That was another interesting thing that came up in the meeting, was that, like, did somebody say that they could go up to 60? Like, you could buy a certain class of scooters or that go up to like 60 miles. That is really fast.
Yes.
And there was a whole conversation about people should be, you should even be using like motorcycle helmets, right? So it's protecting your whole face, not just a regular, like, traditional bike helmet. And I was like, wow, I didn't even think about how fast they could potentially go. Right. But yeah, they have potential to go very fast. So
yeah, it was interesting. The one that kind of stuck out to me too was, that a vehicle is not required to stop for a scooter that is being ridden across an intersection. But if the rider gets off the scooter and walks it across, then they're considered a pedestrian, and the traffic law requires them to stop. So that one kind of stuck out to me too. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think those are a lot of, when we talk about e-scooters, are really big for kids. And as adults, we don't fully realize the laws, and we see kind of the complications of maybe some of these laws. And it makes it even more like, well, of course our kids are struggling with this, because they're kids. They're not, as developed as adults, and we as adults are still kind of struggling with some of these laws. So it makes sense. It's kind of a difficult situation, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So we talked about the state law, and as listeners, if you can tell, we spent quite a bit of time talking about state law as we were learning it as well. Then we looked at research from other cities. We looked at different educational approaches different cities had taken, as well as other cities that had adopted ordinances. And, a city cannot be less restrictive than state law. So if they were to adopt an ordinance, it would be more restrictive than state law. And so we looked at that as well. After we went through all of that, each of the stakeholders were given the homework assignment to go out and take that information. They can research more, but go talk to people that they're representing in that stakeholder group. And I think, Jacki, you had a meeting where you invited parents to come. And
and I actually got some grandparents too. And it's great to get perspective even from that point of view. And I think a lot of people are concerned about just their ability to even drive. Like, I don't have a child on a scooter, but I don't trust my own driving anymore because they're coming out of everywhere. And I just think that it's good to hear everybody's voice, and it was a great opportunity to find, to be the stakeholder for that age group and to have an opportunity to see it from parents who have younger children who are not yet scooting and saying, I'll never buy a scooter. But, it's just like saying you'll never buy a cell phone. All of a sudden you're like, out of convenience, boy, that really does seem handy to me. So, getting education in the hands of to-be parents who will be scooting later, or those who their child ends up over at a friend's home and they have an e-scooter, and I know the rules because my parents told me, but I've never been on one. So those kinds of things can happen, and I just feel like we're in a perfect opportunity right now to be able to present this information in a way that's fun, engaging, and also just super informative, Yeah. We're all kind of in the same place, I feel like. So.
Yep. Absolutely. So kind of jumping in, we went to that second meeting that was after each of the stakeholders did their homework and talked to their people in their groups of influence. And we met again on July 7th. And at that, we went around and each person in the group would report their findings, kind of like Jacki just did here, but talked about what they learned from different people, what they learned from research, and just they, again, were representing that collective voice of the group they were representing, which was very interesting as we went around and heard very different things that people heard from their different groups, whether it was, an older adult, an avid trail user, the youth that use scooters. They had a different view. It was very interesting and good to get all of those voices heard. And then again, we reviewed the state statute and other cities that had adopted ordinances, and then we had deliberations. And
can I add something about the about hearing different voices? Because it was interesting, like, because this issue had been brought into my mind from the first meeting, I ended up having like a lot of nieces and nephews and children of my friends come and visit, and I brought it up to them like, hey, what's happening in your schools? These are schools in like Utah and Las Vegas, and what's going on in their school. And I had one niece mention like, oh, well, like at our school, and she lives in Vegas, and at our school they ended up getting banned because kids were using them at the school and they were like slamming into like smaller kids, the older kids. And so like it's just kind of, it was interesting to be like, oh, this is a problem, and different communities are having to handle it differently
nationwide.
And so it's interesting that it got like being on this committee kind of got the conversation going with these kids in my life and hearing about what they're doing. So and how problems and things that are working in their communities. So
that's awesome. Very interesting. Yeah. Very cool. And so, when we did the deliberations, I guess we kind of all talked about the different views and different things. I guess thinking back to that discussion, what were some of your takeaways? I know we talked about, I'm going to bring up the downtown businesses, and bikes and scooters are not allowed on sidewalks on Main Street. And do you guys want to kind of
Priscilla, I feel
that?
Like, you,
passionate about that.
As an avid walker myself, I noticed many years ago that there was some, signage on the concrete, no rollerblades, no bikes. And, that was kind of me like going, oh, that makes sense. These tight quarters here on Main Street with the sidewalks, and not wanting to get run into as you're coming out of a business or something. So to me, it was like that made a lot of sense. And then I just assumed that it was the case for the whole city. And then, so those, you make some assumptions about things when you don't know signs or you don't know the rules, And also sometimes we resort to something different due to safety, right? Where you're like, I didn't really want to drive on Main Street with my young children on bicycles. Right. So I did go on the sidewalk. Right. And I think, sometimes we do make a choice that it's like, this is just the best thing that I decided to do in this situation. But I think you can speak to how you felt about it. It was like, oh my goodness, I feel bad. I didn't know.
And I'll say, so I am new to Luverne. I've only lived here about 2.5 years. I'm from out of state. I'm not aware of any of the rules for this region or anything, or even, like I said, not aware of the problems, right? So right before we had done this meeting, I go on this bike ride with my family, with my young children, and we just went on the sidewalk because and we're going down Main Street on the sidewalk because I'm like, well, this is safe. Like, I'm not taking my young children into the street as we are all biking. So I go down Main Street, didn't even really think about that, and got to this meeting. It's like, oh, that was against the rules. That was against the law. Okay, now I know, kind of thing. But still looking back, I'm like, I still don't know. Even if I had known it was a rule, I might still have taken the road still taken the sidewalk because small children, like my kids are like 4 and 6, and that's really young to have them in the street when we are on bikes. And so and then I had to I talked to it with my husband. It's like, what do you think? And should bikes be allowed, e-scooters on the sidewalk, or what should be the rule? And I get that we want to prioritize the safety of those who are walking and pedestrians. And yet I'm still I don't know how to merge the two issues. I can definitely see complications of we want our bikers to be safe, but we also want our walkers to be safe.
Agreed. And I think, in reading the statute, that was kind of an eye-opener for, I believe, all of us, the fact that e-scooters are not to be on sidewalks, period. So who wants, do you really want your 12-year-old in the lane of traffic with a car, right? Yeah. Those are conversations that are, it's challenge. It's a challenge. And we don't want to discourage, patrons from downtown. We want them to go to our businesses. And so we had that great discussion about bike racks and the opportunity, if you want to come downtown, please do. But and we'll put some bike racks for you on the side streets, So we had a good talk about that, which I thought was fruitful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It was a good idea.
Yeah. So that was just an example of some of the deliberations we had. We had a lot. We went into many different topics, but again, it was great to see things from multiple sides. And so from those deliberations, then we developed the recommendation to council. And I'll let you guys kind of talk what, I guess just out of those 3 topics, what was the one that we made as a recommendation to council as a group?
I think it goes without saying that, Priscilla and I are in education. It just felt like a natural response to say, let's be sure that we can supply the information to children and families in a way that's digestible. It's readily available. It's easy to understand. Because, we might be battling a lot of I just didn't know. And I think we were all in that kind of that same boat. So that I feel like is kind of a natural yes for both of us.
Yeah. Making sure that we're reaching out to parents, to children, whether it's through the school, whether, other avenues where they're looking and making it, again, digestible is a great word, where it's making it as simple and straightforward as we can for the kids to understand and to make it maybe even possibly fun. We had some great ideas about doing events that are going to make it fun so that these kids can show up and be like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be wearing a helmet. Didn't know that. Oh, I'm not supposed to have my 5-year-old brother riding alongside on my scooter with me. Okay, I'll make sure, he doesn't do it. And just making sure that they know these rules and starting with that, making sure that we're educating kids. And there's so many great avenues that we can go through to make sure that they are getting this information. And so I look forward to seeing that marketing outreach to our youth.
Yeah. An interesting fun fact that I never even considered was my son is an avid bicyclist, and we do have Life 360 for our boys. I've got one driving, I've got one in junior high. I can see how fast he's going on his bicycle.
Really?
So, just like when they're in the car and they're speeding, you can be like, I did see how fast you were going.
So how
Is
fast,
it like an
how
app
fast can he bike?
Oh, it's like
like an app's reporting to you what he's doing. Oh.
Yeah. So it's like it'll say he's on a bike, and you can see the image of a bicycle. And when he's on foot, you see like little sneakers.
Right.
Okay, but it'll say how fast he's going, and I find that fascinating. Usually, it's like 12 to 14 miles an hour on a pedal bike. But that information is like, maybe parents would want to utilize that, because a lot of parents do use that to help them know where their children are if their child has a phone. Nothing beats just being able to ask them, where are you? But it's also nice to be able to just say, they haven't left Sioux Falls yet, those kinds of things. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is awesome. Very cool. So the formal recommendation the Civic Assembly group made to the council was to continue to follow state law, and then an emphasis on providing positive education to the public. And I know that was a very big emphasis of this group, was we wanted that positive reinforcement through education out in the public. We want to start with that first. And, we don't want to take away the freedoms of allowing our youth to be outside, to ride scooters, to, exercise, have recreation, hang out with their friends. It also gives them a sense of responsibility when they can hop on their scooter and go to softball or baseball practice. That was something that was very important, I feel, to the group. And as parents, you guys felt that as well. We don't want to restrict their freedom, but we want them to be safe. Like, safety is first. And so through that education, we want it to be positive. We talked about doing printed publications, and Jacki, I think you had a very good recommendation about infographics and visuals. And do you want to kind of talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, Worthington has a nice one. And we talked about it a little bit last night when we met with the board, or the council, I should say. And like Mayor Boston said, you look at that infographic and you get what you need in less than 20 seconds. All the information is there. Now, sometimes it's going to take multiple opportunities to share that information, with families and children. Just our whole objective, of course, is just to prevent, an accident, and as the result of lack of knowledge. So we're really working on being proactive rather than having to be reactive at this point, and I think that's the right way to go. There's a lot of great recommendations that were given to the council. I mean, just so many. And Jill, you had talked about the popsicle pop-ups that, and I caught you being good. I caught you with a helmet on, free ice cream kind of stuff. Really fun things that I think hopefully will make a difference for the kids in terms of just understanding their visibility, that they need to be visible to drivers and to others in the community, and it can be in a good way.
Absolutely. And I approached the local Rotary Club, and they have provided funding so that we can purchase coupons or vouchers for a free ice cream. And so we're going to have free ice cream tokens and have that in all of the sheriff's deputies' vehicles. And so as they are out, they're going to be, and they see a scooter rider who's following the law. Maybe they have their helmet on, or they see them stopping at an intersection and walking their scooter across, or it's one rider rather than two. They're going to stop them and give them the free ice cream. And again, like Jacki said, that would be that positive reinforcement in kind of a fun way. Like, hey, when you're following the law, you get free ice cream. So that's one of them. And then along with that, they'll get one of the visuals as well. Like, hey, here's the law, with the information that they can follow. And then we also recommended educational videos. And I'm going to pass this on to you, Jacki, too, because you kind of took the lead on this.
I did just reach out briefly. It wasn't a lot. But I did reach out to the school because I think it's a perfect opportunity to utilize the age level of kids that are exactly the population that we're trying to target, right? You're going to have these 12, 13-year-olds, so 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, are going to be your target population because they're not yet driving. So, there's probably not a ton of kids over 16 who are scooter users simply because they now have a driver's license. So you're looking at that age. And so you have a high school class or high school students for that matter, as was mentioned last night at the meeting, who, there's going to be a lot of opportunities there for them to hopefully make some educational short videos, 30-second reels, some TikToks, being able to kind of talk about those rules to make it fun. And people, or that age level is the age that the younger children are going to look up to. So the chances of them watching them are much higher than if an adult makes a goofy video, right? So trying to utilize some students at the school would be really great with some video production and editing. So, but these kids make TikToks all the time. It's like their day job. So honestly, it probably will take a total of 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah. And just as important as having, as making the information, we want to make sure that our methods of delivery for the information are impactful as well. We want it to be useful. We want it to be seen. So, those videos, we want to partner with the school to get those played in classrooms, probably 3rd through 9th grade was kind of the age group we identified. And then working with the school to get some of that information out, but also at the local movie theater, having it as part of the preview before a movie. Just a lot of different ideas on how we can get that delivery method out. Oh, and then the other one, I almost forgot, was working with Sanford to have the info at child checkups. I thought that was great. And you had reached out to local physicians just to see what they were seeing.
I'd actually reached out to some Sanford physicians in Sioux Falls just because there haven't been a ton of children ending up in the ER here with those kinds of injuries, but just reaching out to find out, like, what kinds of things are you seeing? And one of the things that was a little bit of an eye-opener was the number of foot injuries. So that was kind of one of our recommendations, was that, it'd be great if kids were wearing their shoes. And even today, I think, did we see somebody? I don't remember who it was, if it was today or yesterday, but a child just out there, no shoes on. And you don't think about this, but when they fall and are injured, they're seeing a lot of broken feet. And then I just said this before we even got in here. I heard the story of an e-bike accident yesterday where the handlebars hit the child. It was a 16-year-old in the chest. Had a pancreas injury as a result of the handlebar. So it's like they're just, when we're thinking about these kinds of things, obviously a head injury is something we would naturally think of. But some of the other things also, they're significant. And, what can we do to keep kids out of an ER, So.
Yeah, for sure. And again, that was this group, safety first. It wasn't about, tracking kids down and getting them in trouble, but it was positive reinforcement, and our main concern was safety, allowing, finding that balance of freedom, responsibility, and safety. And I think that was a good outcome that came out of this group.
That was a surprising thing to me, going back to that. What surprised you? I'm like, who's not wearing shoes when they go on a scooter? Like, are you not going to hurt your feet with using bare feet? And I brought it up to one of my nieces. She's like, well, I've done it before, but only a couple times. And then I got hurt. And so I stopped doing it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad you learned your lesson. So just these little funny things that they're doing, and injuries are happening out there. So.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening. So it was a great experience, I thought. I really enjoyed, first of all, getting to know all of you and working together and hearing the voices and the work that you guys put into it to get the voices of kind of your demographic of these different special interest groups. What was your takeaway from just the Civic Assembly process in general? What were your thoughts?
It was really great to come together and just be able to share my thoughts. Maybe to start off, it was great to get this information and then to be able to share my thoughts, and then to know that I can help be a resource as we start to send out this information. I can say, I was there. I know that the city is working on it and they're very concerned, and here's some of the stuff that we talked about. So being able to now turn around and be a resource on behalf of the city, I think is valuable. And I loved it. I love being able to kind of hear from these different voices and think about perspectives that I had not considered at all until we came together. So that was really great.
Yeah, Awesome.
I think so too. I have to mirror her exactly. To have your voice is, and then remembering it isn't just your voice. You're representing somebody, and I think that's that's what a civic assembly is supposed to be about. When you look up the definition, it really is a responsible representative who comes forth and is going to engage with the information. Not that's some of it might be their opinion, but a lot of it is just who you represent and what voices need to be heard, I guess. And it's great to have that feeling that you're part of something. My husband and I have lived here for 18 years, but for 15 of those years, I traveled Southwest Minnesota for my job. My husband works in Sioux Falls. He does now work from home, but it's really hard to try to feel like you're part of something when you're never in your community. And so, trying to find ways to engage. So I've been on the Luverne Community Education Board. I've been on Little Lambs Board. I'm on the board at Take 16. It's really just to find your people. Like, who are your people that you can engage with and interact with? And so, like, for me, it was like just getting to know a different part of this city and the different, subsets of people, because I would say a good share of the people that were at the meeting I'd never met before. So that was really nice too, and then to hear their perspective, who they're representing, and then it felt really like a great, honest forum of people who genuinely were looking out for the people in the community. They came forward with information from who they were representing, and it felt just so true and honest. And that's the part that was really fun about it, was like, oh, I never would have thought that about that information, and to take that in and have a whole nother perspective as a parent of a child under 18, and then grandmas and grandpas with young children and what their perspective is. It just makes you think about things very differently, and I really respect that. I think that's just cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad we did it. It is a great opportunity to get more voices in the community that ultimately will help, our city council make policy change, or, make changes. We're not necessarily making a policy change in this, but we're going to do education. And we got some very good recommendations on how to do that education and where to do it. And it was I thought it was a great opportunity. And I hope we can do more civic assemblies with different special interest topics.
I think that would be fantastic. I think it has to be well received. I mean, I loved it. So
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be great to keep doing it. So
good.
Yeah.
Well, when we have the next one, I hope you guys apply for that one too.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Priscilla and Jacki, for joining us. And thank you, listeners, for going inside the Heart of Luverne.